This, to me, was a great joy and privilege to be invited back. 2 years ago, we were co-sponsors. It was called the Lieutenant Governor's LGBT Youth Conference, and I was so proud to be able to not only lend my name, but our enthusiasm and staff and thinking and time from the office, because it's so important and it fit with everything that was important to our work. And Matt Dulek, who was with me then, sends his best to everybody else. So I thank you. This year I looked at the agenda. It couldn't have been richer and more provocative and more important. I appreciate the DPI sponsorship and Diverse and Resilient with GSAFE and UWM, and the Chancellor and Superintendent were here. It doesn't get higher level and more important than that. And I thank you for giving me the last word. I like having the last word, and collectively, I would like all of us to have the last word on this issue and to just be done with it. Gary was right. We need to imagine, and today was a lot about the hard work of creating that vision and of designing how we are specifically going to map the future. We need to get out of, too often we find ourselves in reactive postures. One of the young people at the table reminded us of that, to get out of a reactive posture and into the design mode. So I'm thinking, as I look at Mr. Winder, am I pronouncing that correctly? Jeffrey? I'm thinking, so let's dam the intake in the school to prison pipeline and reroute that pipeline to leadership for those children, right? We really have to be working at this, designing families, designing school systems that support children's success, communities that really strengthen our bonds and bring opportunity for engagement in designing careers. Building, in essence, here's the non-tech woman trying to use this language, building a broadband network, because today we brought a lot of different issues together, and importantly, bringing race more focally or more into the center, and having these multiple threads and channels, but around a shared agenda. And our shared agenda is justice. And it's our shared responsibility. And to see these different things as not competing issues, but seeing them in juxtaposition, giving us an even greater sense of urgency for what we need to be doing for the students who live this story. The LGBTQ children hit awkward teen years and that coming of age that is difficult by definition, and it's made more painful and too often dangerous for them because they don't fit into the old, narrow, neat categories of sexuality that were already an anachronism at the time that they were conceived, and they continue to carry the weight of profound prejudice. So an essential part of education of all children and all of us, and it's ongoing for a lot of us, is teaching us how to come to grips with who we are, so that it informs our life, but doesn't become our life's work. And all of these children deserve a fuller picture of what the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution and Title IX of the Civil Rights Act should mean to them and their educational experience. We have seen with President Obama's administration that the Department of Justice is on the ready and intervening in lawsuits on behalf of high school students who are targeted as LGBTQ. The districts have a responsibility to not only stop bullying, but to prevent harassment wherever it happens. And when it occurs because of a student's race, color, religion, national origin, disability, or sex, including harassment based on sex stereotypes, the Department of Justice has the authority to take action in school districts that do not prevent that. So we're seeing some school districts that move forward without waiting, like in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and another couple where they've adopted comprehensive district policies to ensure equal educational opportunities for these children, including equal application of dress codes, restroom access, and respecting students' preferred names and pronouns. Minnesota's largest school district, the Anoka-Hennepin district, waited actually for the feds to give them a nudge. And now they have them as their best friends for 5 years, overseeing a comprehensive blueprint for sustainable reform. That happened because a group of courageous students stepped forward and said, enough, enough. And they understood their rights. I believe very strongly that in Wisconsin, we aren't the people who need to wait for pure exhaustion or tragedy to drive us to that moment. So last time and this time too, I'm really focused on this conference producing movement and results and having us build stronger communications among us and taking responsibility for addressing all of the things that we learn together. We all know that culture eats strategy and policy for lunch, so we have bold ambition to change the culture. And we learned from Dr. Espelage that one of the things in cultural change is changing the language, that there's nothing benign about homophobic language. And Jeffrey, Mr. Winder, echoed that, helping us see that instead of saying that we need to say push out instead of drop out, and it will lead us to a different place and a different resolution. So who else is here who is in charge? Who's left from DPI? Good. We have 2 of the good team. There was a big team. So here's some messages to take back. And as I said, Superintendent Evers is, for me right now, the strongest, most important statewide elected official. He's really our backboard for everything that matters to us right now, and he's here to provide leadership. So I'm anxious for him and his team to add gender identity and expression question to the state youth risk behavior survey after the last one. After our last conference, they added a question asking about sexual orientation. I must not have been speaking loudly enough or clearly enough in our meeting that brought that about, or I didn't articulate it enough. But now we just need to do this, add this question about gender identity and expression. This is a baby step, so this ought not to take very long. And we need DPI to lead expansion of the statewide education equity protections. We did them so early, first in the nation, that we didn't have the T on the end. So we need them to expand those protections to include gender identity expression. Then I would like, here's my, sounds like a child at Christmas, doesn't it? But this is serious stuff. So when they're done with that, and that's, they can get that done by 10 tomorrow morning, then I would like them to come with us, and we'll bring along Minnesota now has a very clear template. I mean, this 5-year supervision is of a very ambitious picture of what needs to happen where in that district to completely change the culture and make it sustainable. So let's take that template and have the superintendent come with us to WASDA, the Association of School District Administrators, and to WASB, the Association of School Boards, because they need to provide leadership roles too. And some have been dragging their feet. But this is not a question of how do you feel about it. This is a question of law. And so none of us, we're all working with really tight budgets at every level of government, and they can't afford to allow the discrimination to continue. And so let's avoid those nasty, expensive lawsuits and work together and follow a template that's already been written. We don't have to create it and be done with it. I expect that the teachers' union and professional associations of counselors and law enforcement and social workers are all there to help add their voices and be supportive and their collective weight to this project and taking responsibility for the various pieces. And then we have the GSA. The GSAs, the students and the faculty advisors and the parents, we need to build out our networks. We had someone from the ACLU here. We've got access to legal support in each school district as we work at it. There's groups of young professionals that can't believe we're talking about this. Let's build out the networks of people who say, let's just get this done and be done with it. I would love to see students through the GSAs, through a collection of organizations, through a separate authority in each school district, empowered to provide the oversight for the implementation of Title IX. They ought to know. I really believe that we could empower them to lead their peers in guiding full implementation of Title IX, and this is for all women and everything that associates with gender identification, to guarantee equal opportunity. And empowering students is essential. 2 years ago, I said, wow, in Wisconsin, we have 80 GSAs. Wow, 80. We've got 426 school districts. This year, we have 140. That's huge growth in 2 years. Huge growth. It's still only a third of the school districts. But think about those courageous students in West Bend when the school board voted to deny them their organization on campus at the school. And so now West Bend's best friend is a federal court. And they're going to be under the supervision of the court for 7 years to make sure that they do this right. It was students again in Camdenton, Missouri, who brought a federal judge in. I'm telling you, we're giving a lot of lawyers work. And he or she, the federal judge, intervened to force the school district to replace their web filter that was blocking all pro-gay sites. The students said, So why is this so important to our state? Because, and I say this to you students, unchecked harassment limits your performance as a student and a citizen. It affects your health, and it diminishes your dreams. And we actually can't afford, as a state or a nation, to squander your talent. We don't want to push you out of state to work somewhere else because we're unwilling to make this a place where you feel safe, and because we're unwilling to make it a place where you know that your contribution is valued. So, yes, Mr. Winder, we need to go back to the way that we organize our balance sheets, and the human capital of our youth is on the asset side of that balance sheet. That's the way it is. We focus on your students with a tremendous sense of your promise, given your interest in leading, which is evident because you are here, knowing that you're, for us, you are our bridge to seeing the end of discrimination. Your work elevates our ethos, therefore our expectations of ourselves, to lead by example. There's another young group of students in Indiana, the Indiana Youth Group, who were denied the privilege of a specialty license plate, and they're fighting it. And if you go to Indiana Youth Group, I did online, you can join the fight. We focus today on the double jeopardy of students of color. We feel it with the murder of Trayvon Martin, with the discovery that that National Organization for Marriage Rights, they themselves acknowledge that their agenda is, quote, to drive a wedge between gays and blacks and to make opposition to gay marriage a badge of youth rebellion, for heaven's sakes. This is what we're working with. People will find ways to drive wedges between us. Watch for it. And it's all echoed in the murder of a gay youth recently by neo-Nazis in Chile. So unless we extend the promise of the Constitution to all, it will protect none. There's no breaking this into pieces. And I want to say in closing that rethinking safety calls for us to think more broadly about security. There's no state or global security without human security. And all of our children deserve deep engagement in a proud culture, and they deserve a sense of security, of physical and economic and moral security. Remember that young man who committed suicide in New Jersey after his roommate had focused a webcam on him in a private moment? Well, the conviction of Darun Rare on the bias, intimidation, and invasion of privacy lets us know that just a jerky kid defense is not going to work anymore. That's all over. So when you go down the central stairs, you're going to see a great big poster announcing that Cornell West is coming on campus next week. If you can be here, be here. There's no one more incisive in helping us understand our role in the issues of the day. He recently described the state of social justice, equal rights, fairness, and human respect and understanding in America as hope on a tightrope. It does feel tenuous, but it's not impossible. We work today at the weaving of what we want to be a strong safety net for all of our children. And we do it in a spirit of generosity, with a real sense of urgency and a can-do attitude, with good humor and great determination to get this job done once and for all, to have the last word. I'm hopeful. Thank you.